Hello and welcome to a new tutorial series where I'll be making a whack-a-mole type game. So enemy or little target pops randomly out of one of 9 holes and you get a big mallet, like at the fun fair. Let me try and do a cool sweep transition. I hope that worked. Here's one I made earlier in full screen. It's not really finished, it's quite buggy, but you've got a mallet, you click to put the mallet down, and if you manage to hit the squirrel, it's not that easy actually, because you need to be right on top of its nose. Hmm. Boom. Nope, didn't work. Ah, yeah, you've seen it, right? Splat. You see a bit of blood and so on, and my score goes up, and then it gets faster and faster. All right, so let's start from scratch. So in Scratch, this is new project in Scratch. First up, always give a name to your project. So we're going to call it Whack-a-Mole, or indeed a squirrel. We don't need the Scratch cat. We are going to create a new sprite from the paintbrush by drawing directly the costume, and we want to create a mallet. So first I'm going to pick a nice shade of brown, which is going to be like in the maybe color 8. So that's kind of an orangey, saturated, and then brightness it down. Yeah, so 8, 175, a black outline, maybe just 2. I can always change that after. So let's make first a circle for the head. Now, if you hold shift when you're drawing your circle, it will force it, or a square, it will force it to be a 1-to-1 ratio, as in a perfect circle. If I let go of shift, I can drag left and right, and so I have like sort of wobbly circle. But if you press shift when you click, then you're sure it's a proper circle. Same deal if you need a square. So that looks quite right. I could probably, I don't know, a bit thicker. Yeah, 4. Um, and now we're going to do a handle. So that's kind of just a little rectangle, right? Quite narrow like that, and move it. So in order to line them up, I'm going to snap it to the middle of the sprite and then use the arrow key, so just the down arrow. So I know I'm going to moving it down from, it's going to be centered left to right, and maybe make it a bit longer and then put it backwards so it's below the head of the mallet. So that's looking good, right? That's our sprite. Sprite 1, by the way, always give your thing's name. That's mallet. And the name of the costume is raised. So as in the mallet is up high, and it's going to come down. I'll call it up. Up and down is good. Now, I've got my up costume. I right click, I duplicate it. And wait, so let me check first. And then for the up costume, I then, oops, not that. Using the pointer tool, so selection tool, select everything, which you can, so immediately you can sort of scale the whole thing up and down. Once you've got the dimensions right, probably like something like that, and you would center it so that the center of the costume is on the center of the sprite. You see that little X? Yeah, and it snaps. Here we go. Let's trash that because we want to base your down from the actual up. We're gonna use maybe a bit bigger. Just changing my mind. I don't know, mind you. No, not. No, let's try and make it simple, make it small. Okay, this is our up costume. Right click, duplicate. I'm going to call down. And so the down costume is the same mallet, except a tiny bit smaller. With a little bit of what we call the foreshortening, so make the handle a little bit shorter because it would have been tilted down. And to make this effect of tilted down, remember you can change if you're in vector mode, you can change the fill and outline after you have drawn the shapes. So I'm going to take that fill and I'm going to make it a vertical fade. So it's going to have one color at the top, one color at the bottom. I'm going to select the same color, the same, I believe it was 8, 175, right? Except at the top, it's going to be 50. Yes, and swap it. So I want the top to be darker. Same deal here. So for the handle, select it, go into the fill, pick a vertical fade between this and it's that, right? And take it all the way down. So let's just see if that's the right way around. That kind of work? No, it's the wrong way around. Right. So you want the top to be, so swap them around. You click swap here. So I want yeah, in that kind of fade, so the leftmost is the topmost and the right is the bottom. So yeah, and that gives it a subtle effect, like it's kind of, like it's tilted. That's not, I mean, I'm no artist, but that's the simple thing. And the other thing I'm going to want to do with my down costume is I select the whole thing, but this time I will want just the circle, the head to be centered. So I'm going to center the head and recenter the handle onto the head and then move it down like I did the first time round. Right, so now we have up, down. And if you look here on the canvas, it does look like it's coming down. Right, that is our costume. So you can make a costume very simple with the vector mode and a couple of bits. Now, script. The first thing we want to do is the player controls the mallet in that with the mouse, which means that we want to make the mallet sprite forever. Once the flag is click, forever, move, go to, right, mouse pointer. So when I do that, I click the flag, and as I move the mallet, it's following the mouse pointer. So straightforward. That's for the motion, the movement, and then I want it to respond to a click. So this is when the sprite clicked. Now, because the sprite is following the mouse cursor, whenever I click, I'm guaranteed to click the sprite. So when the sprite is click, what I want to do is change the costume, switch costume to down, right? And then wait a bit and switch the costume back to up. Yeah, call it, say 1 second. 1 second is way too long, but just to show. I mean, this is iterative, right? Down, then up. That would be your intuitive way of doing the hitting behavior, right? Bring the mallet down. That's good. It does work in principle. Make it 0.5 second. But the problem you're going to have if you do things like that is that you can spam click. So if I repeatedly click, it might sort of wedge it in the up state. Oh, that does kind of work. Now let's say that yeah, okay. Well, that's one way of doing it. However, let's say that instead of pacing, so instead of having a wait block for 0.5 second, I'm going to use a sound. Yeah, let's have a look at the sounds in the mallet. Don't want that. Let's see if there's something that notes percussion maybe. I don't know if I'm sharing the sound. Well, okay, kick drum. Oh, is that the kick? Yeah, that sounds like that could be, yeah. So we're gonna say that's the hit. That's the hit if you don't hit anything. Of course, there's gonna be two hit sound because you wanna get feedback to the player when you've hit the target. So in principle, it would be that how this is 0.18. It tells you it's 0.18 seconds. So a cool way of pacing is that instead of using a straight up wait block, you would use one of the play sounds block, which comes very much like the say. They'll also do that. So if you look at same thing, you can either just do it or do it for 2 seconds. And with player sound, it's the same deal. You can start the playing of the sound and it kind of runs in parallel, which we call asynchronous, in that we hit the play sound block, the sound starts, it continues for as long as the sound lasts, and then the code continues at the same time. Whereas if you use play sound until done, it's gonna stop the execution of the code and nothing further down runs until we're here. So if I use play hit until down and switch costume to up, it does mean that I'm going to be able to spam if I spam click. Now let's say you want to prevent spamming an autofire, because it's too easy to win the game if I just kind of like spam the clicks. And also you might have weird behaviors because it might kind of get blocked. It's not really going down quite quickly enough. It's not going back up. I don't really like it. So what you will need to do, and that's kind of a common design pattern. So this is like a way of putting code against your sprite to have a sort of refractory period, a period of time where if you're doing an action, whilst you're doing that action, you cannot do it again. So if you're attacking, you might fire an animation to sort of make a fireball or whatever, like you're casting the spell. You don't want to start a handle another attack. So in order to do that, I'm going to use the costumes to store the state of the sprite. The idea is that the mallet is either up or down. It cannot be both at the same time, and that's quite important. So it's more that the costume is more than a costume. The costume is actually the state. And so just like you can switch the costume in the looks block, if you look at the bottom of the series of block, you've got the variables you can pull out, those rounded, what do you call it, like a sort of pill shape, sort of rounded rectangles. And so we have the costume number. We can use this to put into the conditional. So let's have I only want to do this, all of that down then up. I only want to do this if the costume is up, because I only want to be able to bring the mallet down if it is up. So costume name equals up. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, so if I spam click, now here you've hit the problem. If I spam click, because I've got a bunch of handler, it gets stuck into the down, and so I had clicked the first time, it started there, and it was waiting here until down. I clicked again, and suddenly it went outside of that block because the costume is down, it's not up, which means that suddenly, because the costume is never going to go back to up on its own, the mallet is stuck in the down state. Remember, that's the down state, that's the up state, that's the down state. The one that darker at the top and a bit smaller is the down mallet. So, in order to do that, first up, initialization. When the flag is clicked, make sure we're in up mode, we're in up costume. And then what we're going to do is, if the costume name is up, then we switch the costume to down and play the sound hit until done. And then move the switch costume up outside so that whatever happens, whether we go into this if block or not, we're going to come out of this script, as in this string of blocks, going back up. And so then it sounds and looks a bit like that. So because I've got the sound hit until done, it forces a maximum pace. So it's like about that often. So it's like, what, 4 seconds or something like that. So and we can play around with this. So if I would take like the sound hit and say make it faster, yeah, suddenly I can hit much quicker, because there's the duration of the sound that really sets the pace of the hits. Okay, so this was our whack so far for the first video, which is really the Mallet Sprite. So what we've done is we've done 2 costumes up and down using the vector tool drawing, and in particular the fill outline, to give an impression of perspective. And also we've looked at how to center sprites, like sort of the magnetic snap of the center of your shape to the center of the sprite. So it's really useful to line stuff up, moving stuff with the keys. Rather than grab with the mouse, so you can make sure that you only move them, in our case, vertically or horizontally, and we're going to use that in the next video for the background. Something else I did was I used in that is like hold the shift key if you're drawing a circle or rectangle to make sure you are drawing. Sorry, use the shift key if you're drawing a rectangle or an ellipse to make sure you instead are drawing a square or a circle. So that's costumes. And then the second thing, with the sprites, we've got a basic sprite for movement. That's pretty straightforward. We're forever sticking to the mouse pointer with a bit of initialization at the top. And then we have a script for, I'll call it attack, if you will, that uses the costume name to indicate the state. It's a useful concept that I've not seen illustrated anywhere in our previous tutorials, for sure, or in any of the Code Club or Code Dojo projects, but Scratch you can drive logic of the costume name. You can also drive logic of the backdrop name, which are just costume for your stage. So here it is for our first video, and then I'll see you very shortly for the second one, where we are going to start making the background. So those 9 little slots from which the squirrel pops up, or the mole. Let me see if I can do another cool transition again. Sweep. Yeah, is that good? Did that work? Yeah, look at that. Sweep. Sweep. Can I fade? Ready? Okay, and I'll see you in the next video very, very soon, where we'll do the background. I've been Will Gerard for the Acton Ealing Coder Dojo, but this video is really for all. Enjoy coding. No, have a good code. Code away! You get it.